ጤና ይስጥልኝ. My name is Emmeline and you're watching ET A to Z on Arts TV. Ethiopia is Africa's top honey producer and the 10th largest in the world. From the mountainous Tigray region in the north to the forests in southwest Ethiopia, the country is known for its high-quality honey varieties. But honey is also produced here in Addis Ababa, and today we will be meeting one beekeeper who will tell us the secrets of honey production. Let's go! ሰጠኝ እና እባክህ
ሰላም ነው።
ጤና ይስጥልኝ።
አውሪ ይስጥልኝ። እንዴት ነሽ?
ደህና። ምንድን ነው የሚባለው ልብሱ?
ኔት።
እሺ። Why did you decide to start honey production?
ገጠር
I knew about this kind of work in rural areas. They make it using traditional equipment. When I came here to the city, I decided to do this using modern equipment.
How many hives did you have when you started?
I started with 10 hives. Now I have around 40 of them. There are some you can see here, and the others are kept in another place.
Is it a full-time job or just a hobby?
ሙሉ ጊዜ
It's a full-time job for me. I do it at night, and during the day we build modern hives.
Is it a lucrative business?
It is. All you have to buy are the bees and the hives. You don't have to spend money like how you would for cattle. You just have to put the hives around your house and gather the honey when it's been made. There are no costs that you have to cover from your own pockets. You don't have to check up on them every day. Twice or 3 times a month is enough. It doesn't deny you the freedom of doing other work as well.
ቋሚ ስራ አይከለክልም።
Is it something common in your village?
እዚህ አካባቢ
There were some elderly people that used to do this using traditional hives, but it wasn't done on a larger scale.
Why is this environment good for the bees?
አመች
It's because there are different types of plants found here. As you can see, there's a lot of green foliage.
Usually Ethiopians use traditional beekeeping techniques.
The traditional beekeeping techniques use reeds to make the hives, as you can see. When you use traditional techniques, the honey you gather will dry up a bit, so they only gather it once a year. But when you use modern hives, you can gather honey twice a year. So the modern techniques are better than the traditional techniques.
Do they also climb trees?
They use traps and traditional techniques. They put an empty hive on a tree branch, and once the bees start living there, they bring it down and transfer the bees from that hive to this one. We use this traditional technique to get the bees as well. We also use modern hives to trap bees. So yes, we climb the trees to place the traps.
Okay. ከባድ ነው ወይ?
It's not hard. It's not. As you can see, there are trees like these and trees like those as well nearby, so it's not hard.
How many times do you climb the trees usually?
It depends on the season. In Addis Ababa, bees come around the hive in May and June. Those are the 2 months we usually place the fake hives on the trees. After we place the hives on the trees, we wait 2 weeks, then bring them down. So it's not hard.
How many kilos of mar do you produce per year?
Since I take them to different places, I gather the honey 4 times a year. One hive on average can produce 10 to 13 kilograms of honey. If it's only in Addis Ababa, then we'll gather the honey twice a year, so we can gather 20 kilograms from one hive.
Who are your customers and what do they use your honey for?
They use the honey for consumption. They buy it for their relatives that live abroad. There isn't a lot of clean honey nowadays, so my customers come and see when I gather the honey.
But here in Ethiopia, a lot of people use the honey to make one of the most famous traditional beverages, which is honey wine or edge.
I don't have customers that buy honey to make edge. The honey that we sell has been purified with a machine, and you can't use that kind of honey to make edge.
ግን አንተ አልፎ አልፎ ጠጅ ጠጣ?
እሰራለሁ።
Sometimes I make the drink at home.
When do you know when the honey is ripe?
You can tell it's ripe from the way it smells. Another sign is that the bees tend to buzz around the hive instead of staying inside it. Since I check up on the bees on a weekly and monthly basis, I check if they're producing honey or not. Every hive has a designated number so I can tell which hive has honey or not. To gather honey, we first need to smoke the hives. We have a smoker, we also have a tool to pry the honey, we have a brush we use as well. Then we put the honey inside the machine to purify it. This is the modern technique. If we use the traditional one, first we'll smoke the bees out, then we simply cut the honey with a knife.
What makes your honey different from the others?
I have two types of honey. The honey we get from the traditional hive is called injaramar, and the honey we get from the modern hive is called welalamar. We gather honey for our customers at any time they want. Another thing that makes us different from others is that our customers can come and watch us gather the honey, so they'll be happy.
How would you describe the taste of your honey? Does it have a smoky taste? Because I know that the beekeepers usually use smoke to push the bees away.
The smoke doesn't change the taste of the honey. The smoke we use comes from burning olive branches and leaves. In rural areas, they use clean kubet. Since they use clean kubet, it won't change the taste of honey. The smoke is used on the bees and not on the honey directly. And since the honey has already been made, it's sealed. We bought a smoker from abroad. We add coal inside, and if we're going to use olive leaves or the clean kubet, we'll add those as well. Once we add them, we'll use the smoker. We can go and see some of the hives. Since it's day, we can be careful not to get stung. Come.
ነይ
ግን አደገኛ ነው አይደለም?
ልስጥሽ?
እባክህ
እሺ
ትንሽ ፈራ።
እሺ ነይ ችግር የለውም።
አመሰግናለሁ።
ምንም አይደለም። ቀስ ብለሽ ነይ።
Walk slowly.
እንደምታያቸው እነዚህ ቀፎች የተገለበጡ ናቸው።
As you can see, these hives have been turned upside down. They are all traditional hives. We're replacing them with the modern ones. This is what they look like. They're not scary, right? As you can see, they just go about their way. All these hives have been turned upside down. You can come and watch from here. As you can see, these are all empty hives.
ይሄ ባህላዊ አይደለም።
ዘመናዊ ነው።
Yes, they're modern. Modern hives are better. Because when we gather the honey, we cut it with a machine. But if they're traditional hives, we have to turn them upside down and cut them with knives. After we cut it with the machine, we can put the board for the modern hives back again. Once the boards are put back, it takes the bees about 2 to 3 months to start making honey again. And that's why you can gather twice or 3 times from a modern hive. But if it's from a traditional hive, you can only gather honey once from the same hive. As you can see, this is from a modern hive. This is where the honey is. The machine cuts the honey from this board. Once the machine cuts the honey away, these bees are on it because they're tired. Then we put the board back and the bees start working again. This is what makes modern hives better than the traditional ones.
ሄጅ ፕሮቴክሽን መሆን አንተ
I don't have gloves or sleeves to protect my arm. I need thin gloves to work with the bees. The gloves in the country are made from leather, and since it's thick, you can accidentally kill the bees. Since the bees are not scary, you can touch them with your hands.
ምንም የሚያመጡት እንትን የለም።
ጨዋ ናቸው።
ጨዋ ናቸው።
Yes, they are.
አይደለም?
እና እንደዚህ ነው።
በጣም አመሰግናለሁ።
እሺ እኔም አመሰግናለሁ። ምንም አይደለም።
ያንተ ነቦች ጨዋ ናቸው፣ አይነኩም፣ ምንም ችግር የለም።
Every bee is like that. As you can see, they just go about their way.
ትንሽ ፈሪቼ ነበር።
አያስፈሩም።
They're not that scary. You're only scared until you get used to them.
አመሰግናለሁ።
እሺ እኔም አመሰግናለሁ።
Now, let's try some varieties of Ethiopian honey. I am with Netzanet, General Manager of Forested, and today we will be taking part in a honey tasting of 3 varieties of honey.
Okay, so these honeys are 3 different varieties from 3 different regions in Ethiopia. The first one, you can pick your stick.
Sure.
It's from South Gambela, Majeng area. It's in the area, it's called Gomo honey, and a lot of these farmers, they set up their hives way up in these really, really tall trees. Yeah. When you're in the field and you see the amount of work that these farmers put up with to have to climb these trees to set them up and then have to bring them down again, it's very, very impressive. What we've discovered is because the farmers usually use a lot of smoke during harvest to let the bees fly away before they start bringing the comb out of the hive, there's a slight smoky sense to it, and a lot of times this is very common in Ethiopian honey. But apart from that, the natural aroma or taste is like a woody flavor. It's also one of my favorites.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, there's a
flavor
woody
note.
True. And again, it's forest honey, so it's very diverse. These forests are very diverse, so the honey is also very nutritious.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to taste the second one?
Sure.
Yes. This is a white light honey from the Jimma area, and we've been able to work with closely with farmers who produce this around the Belet Agera forest. And the honey is very light, very sweet, and floral.
The only white honey that I knew before was the honey sourced from the Tigray region.
Yes, and that's also very distinct. This is a little bit sweeter.
True.
Yeah. But both are very, very good. Yeah.
Usually when you buy honey in Ethiopia, especially from local farmers, there's still bees inside the jars.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, it comes down to sometimes they're not given enough training, or they're in a haste to sell the honey, and so it's just filtering techniques. And honey is kind of difficult to work with, you know, when it's out and it's exposed, it attracts bees.
Yeah.
And so
they don't want to let their
product go. It's kind of difficult. Even when we're processing, we make sure that we don't want to kill bees, but we make sure that they don't enter the processing room so that they fly into one of the packages, and then it will just be a way of trying to say that it's not processed properly. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So now comes the third honey.
Yes, this is Bisana, and before we taste it, I'd like you to smell it. It's got a very distinct smell. The honey flora is from the Bisana tree. In June, the Bisana tree blossoms, and if you were around that area at the time, you can really actually smell the flowers from this tree. And the honey smells exactly like the flower. And in Ethiopia, in most of the rural parts, they use the leaves of the Bisana tree for medicinal value.
Okay.
So we also believe that the honey has some form of medicinal value, even if it's not as strong as the leaves. But really, when this is harvested especially, it's very perfumey. And
it has this beautiful golden color.
It does, yes, yeah.
It's very thick as well.
Yes.
Oh wow. It's so flavorful.
Yes, it is.
I can't really tell which one is my favorite, to be honest. This one was your favorite, isn't it?
For me, yes.
In Ethiopia, how often can you harvest honey?
There are multiple harvest seasons, and it depends on the regions. For instance, in these honeys, the Bisana is, for example, harvested in May, June, early June. Gateme is harvested in late April, early May. Gomo honey in Majing is harvested from mid-December to March and April sometimes. It's a very extended harvest period, but what happens is there are other flowers that bloom in between, and so there's sometimes a blend, a natural blend of these honeys. And so the gomo that is produced in December would be slightly a bit different than the gomo that's produced towards the end of the harvest season.
And what would you say makes the Ethiopian honey unique?
The variety within one country, the natural variety. Honey is not produced here in sophisticated ways. We see a lot in the Western world where they set up their hives in very near commercial plantations, to help them cross-pollinate, but they also get honey on the side. And most of the honeys are natural in Ethiopia. They're produced in natural ways. The second would be the natural beekeeping, the traditional hives. Yes, we could have more production in Ethiopia if we moved on to like modern hives or transitional hives, but even that, the traditional techniques, it's very fascinating, and it's very unique to Ethiopia. Ethiopia has a lot of potential with honey. It's the leading country in Africa for honey production, and I'm sure there could be more as long as we conserve our forests and we take care of our bees.
So thank you so much for this amazing honey tasting.
Thank you for hosting us.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of ETA to Z. See you all next time.
This is filtered gomo honey, but before it's filtered, it comes in The honeycomb, we also call it in Ethiopia injera, or the beeswax is called sem.
Sen.
Yes. Injera because it has those small hexagonal dents.
Yes.
In injera, it's like circular dents, but you know, they just call it injera also.
I had no idea.
Really, post-harvest, I'm sure a lot of Ethiopians just pick up the comb and chew it, get the honey out, throw the wax away.